said, "I would love you forever," and he was saying, "Not yet, you're still not there. You haven't reached your forever." Rex got to his forever before I did. That's Tony. I will reach my forever one day, and Rex and I will be together again. I'm trying very hard not to be sad because Rex was happy on the very ordinary day that he died. The 9th was just another Saturday. I got to share 42 years of Rex's colourful and full life. It was an unexpected adventure. I'm heartbroken, but I feel blessed. Rex's life was well lived. I'd now like to call on Rex's colleague and friend Marion, who will say a few words. Thank you.
First, just a little context about what I'm about to say. I've recently started writing a journal to my granddaughter to introduce her to the people who have been important in my life. And I just wanted to share with her my memories of people who are important to me. So this is just an abridged version of a much longer piece. So I'll start. Dear H, today I want to introduce you to a dear friend, Rex Kinder. I met Rex in 1999. I didn't know then that Rex would figure prominently in two distinct chapters of my life. The first was between 2000 and 2004 in Tajikistan, which was referred to as a hardship posting. It seemed that the only people who were willing to work at this hardship posting were people who thought life was just one big ongoing adventure, people like Rex and his wife Tony. Rex's assignment was to develop and promote a system where only 20% of those who had previously been deemed to be public service remained so. He had to do this with a straight face and at the same time avoid another civil war which had just ended. I would have liked to have seen Tom Cruise try to achieve that kind of mission impossible. As a result of some unexpected turn events, my work in Tajikistan was extended indefinitely. Rex sensed that I was out of my depth, going from my safe and comfortable 9-to-5 job in Canberra and being plunged into a culture and a language and a people that was totally alienated to me. He went out of his way to look out for me. He found me a driver who also doubled as a translator and bodyguard because, as Rex politely informed me, Marion, when you sack 25 of the minister's relatives and friends for corruption and incompetency, that's what you need, a bodyguard, at least until you can hire another different set of minister's relatives. Tony and Rex left Tajikistan in about 2004. I stayed on until just before COVID hit in 2019. I returned to Australia and came to visit the Kinders to see for myself the results of Rex's almost daily sticky construction updates that I had been subjected to when I was in Dushanbe. The house with its tropical garden setting was just beautiful. Whilst I was pleased to see the Kinders, my return to Australia was as abrupt and as unsettling as my departure had been. Rex intuitively understood this. He and Tony kindly gave me refuge in their secluded granny flat whilst I embarked on a new chapter of my life, which mainly involved postgraduate studies. Whilst my chosen field is international public health, Rex was there to share the learning experience with me, particularly if the course topics related to events in Tajikistan. He was always available to discuss essay topics or support me as I struggled to get my head around health statistics or epidemiology, and more importantly, to edit my papers before I submitted them, particularly towards the end of last year when my cataracts wouldn't let me see what I was writing, so he also became my eyes. He was always the first person I would send an SMS to when my results came in. It was as if we had done this together. My success was his success too. Rex was always generous with his time, and I loved talking to him. We could talk about anything. We talked about world politics. We talked about cars. He would talk about his Audis. I would talk about my MX-5s. We lamented about how the world was being run by young people. We'd talk about films, books we had both read, composers, and music we both enjoyed. I think that after 2 years of listening to Lara Puccini belting out from the granny flat into the garage as he worked on his beloved Gordini, he might have even started to appreciate the sound of Italian pop music. As fellow travellers, we would often compare notes on our journeys along similar paths. One that comes to mind is our respective travels to Peru. I took the 3-day walk over 3 mountain ranges along the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu, whereas Rex took the imminently less painful route via a 20-minute bus ride. In the last 2 years, Rex has become the family I didn't have. At the Big Brother, I realised I missed out on someone to drag me out of bed to go swimming with. Regularly SMS me to make sure I was okay. Someone who told off my son for not keeping in touch with his mother as often as Rex thought he should. And he generally just looked out for me. As many of my Tajik friends have written to me recently, may this great man rest in peace. He will be missed.
Rex's colleague and friend David Burrows, would you come forward, please?
Thank you, Gail. Whew, Marion, that's I'm probably going to follow suit. Rex and I go back to 1971, when I was the Chief Training Officer of the Department of Business Development in Port Moresby. And I discovered he was a demonstration teacher, which meant that he was demonstrating teaching skills to Papua New Guinean teachers. I thought, oh, okay, he might make a good training officer. So I recruited him to the Department of Business Development as a training officer. And that was at Laloki College. There's a couple of photographs in the montage that will show you his with the group in a much younger age. In 1980, I moved away from the department and joined a UN-funded project for the Pacific region. So for 3 years I had this wonderful job cruising around the Pacific Islands. And I took Rex out of the college and sent him off to the Marshall Islands to run a small business course there. And that marked the beginning of his international consulting career. That's where he took it from. So he went from there. I think his next job was a long-term job with W.D. Scott's in Indonesia. And as Marion and Bill both mentioned, I think he's worked in about 50 different countries. I've only worked in 30. He really scooted ahead. He did extra studies. He did his doctorate at UPNG. He did studies at New England University. As I got a bit lazy, I rested on my laurels and the jobs I'd done and just continued to cruise along. But Rex continued with ambition. We wrote a book together called Retailing in Papua New Guinea, which I think sold about 6,000 or 7,000 copies because it became required reading for the schools. And I often remember seeing little people, business people, down there looking at the stock lists which we put in the book for them to check off what stock they were going to purchase for their stores. That book has been revised into a book called Running a Business in the Pacific Region, and it's with the UK publishers. Rex hasn't lived to see it. It'll be published in February next month, and it'll be on the market. We wrote another book called The Competency-Based Training Approach to Human Resource Development and Vocational Education and Training. That one is in its completed form, and it'll be up to Tony and myself to market that ourselves in Rex's memory. Both books are quite large. They're 16, 18 chapters, and we hope that be a lasting memory of him as well. His professional career took him to all those places that I didn't have on my list, places that I wouldn't even consider going, but off he went. Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Manipur, I think in India, where they're running around with guns all the time. He went to places I wouldn't dream of going. I've continued my work out in the Pacific region. So that was his professional life. His sports adventure life, I think I was an influencer there as well, because when I met him in Port Moresby, I needed a scuba diving partner. It was in the days before certification, and what we did in scuba diving, we just read from the books and using US Navy diver tables. And I thought to Rex, do you want to learn to scuba dive? And he said, yeah. So I brought him into a swimming pool and I said, put all the gear on him. And he was an excellent swimmer. But as he swam around the pool, I tore his mask off, I turned his air off, turned it back on again, tore his fins off, took his vest off him, and all he could do was continue swimming around the pool. So I said, up. I said, you'll do. We went out on the reef the next day, spearing fish in front of sharks, all sorts of adventure. I think that's where my adventures were, rather than travelling to other countries that I didn't want to go to. I led Rex astray scuba diving and diving on wrecks in Papua New Guinea, which was just such a great time. The other adventure sport I think I introduced him to was heli skiing. We were all skiing in New Zealand one day, and we drove into Coronet Peak, I think, and we said, look at those guys up there skiing down amongst the rocks. That's mad. That's crazy. Who would do that? The next day, the helicopter dropped us up there, and we skied down amongst those rocks. And Rex probably didn't have quite the skills that I did, but he managed. He did it well. Then, also in New Zealand, we took an aircraft up, Tony and Rex and my wife, Akila, and myself. The plane dropped us at the top end of the Tasman Glacier. And what a day that was, Tony. Skiing down amongst these huge moving ice blocks and things like that. The total run, I think, was from memory about 9 kilometres. What a day that was. And it was such a rare day for aircraft to be able to get up there and drop people on the glacier. Wonderful time. So in many respects, I've been an influencer, I guess, of Rex. I started him in his professional career. I started him in quite dangerous adventure sports. And we've got these books to complete. I will carry on those books in his name. Thank you.
Bring it back this way if you can. That's all right. Yeah, thanks. Now I'd like to read some messages from friends who could not be here. This is from Alvaro and Mayalin in Spain. We have no words to describe how much it hurts us to read your message about Rex. Throughout life, there are just few people who leave a mark as big as the one that Rex and you have left forever in our hearts. And that mark will never disappear from us, no matter what happens. I promise that every time we enter a church or pray, he will always be in our thoughts. Thank you once again for what you both gave us, and I'm not talking about material things. The next one is from Pascal and Annie Shaver in Nearly Beach. How lucky we are to have known Rex and shared a small part of his earthly journey. So as with our varied discussion topics made over a glass or two of fine red wine, we raise one final glass to you, Rex. Rest in peace, our friend. And from Peter Holloway in Romania. Rex was a good friend for over 20 years, although our conversations were limited to emails after the first year. My memorable moments of Rex were selling him a tin homemade, both in Manipur, because the hotel only had showers available, and he has included a story about me in one of his books. For the rest, I will miss all the jokes and the newsletters from around the world. I will miss him. And this one is from Harvey in the Philippines. Rex left an indelible mark on my life and many others who were fortunate enough to be a part of a successful Australian government aid initiative in the Philippines, the Philippines Provisional Road Management Project. I first met Rex on a day that would mark the beginning of a journey filled with challenges, triumphs, and most importantly, invaluable lessons. It was September of 2013 when I walked into that meeting room an hour late due to circumstances beyond my control. Little did I know, a pair of disappointed eyes belonging to Rex, the facility director, and soon to be my boss, would be my introduction to an extremely mentor. From that moment on, Rex and I embarked on the challenging path of managing the project, which would become a rare success story in the realm of the Philippines development. Rex displayed a level of professionalism and work ethic that was nothing short of admirable. His commitment to punctuality, arriving 15 minutes early to every meeting, became a valuable lesson that has stayed with me throughout the years. Rex taught me the importance of time, a precious commodity that, as we all acknowledge, one day eventually runs out. For Rex, that day has arrived. Today, as we reflect on the times we are fortunate to share with Rex, I want to express my deepest gratitude to him through his loving wife, Tony. Rex and I started our professional journey with a shared understanding of the challenging tasks assigned to us by the Australian Embassy, convincing the Philippine government to implement a national roads program modelled after a successful pilot initiative funded by Australia. With great persistence and tendency, Rex and I succeeded in our mission. Since 2016, provincial roads are now being rehabilitated and maintained by the Philippine governments with billions of provincial road investments, something our provincial government partners consider unprecedented. These roads investments have proved the connectivity of geographically isolated and depressed areas to where people can participate in the growth of the economy. And this success story was made possible because Rex approached the challenges with an unparalleled sense of urgency when it came to delivering results. Rex's work ethics was not only professional but infused with great sense of humour. Despite his low tolerance for mediocrity, I can't say the word, at work, he never ran out of funny jokes to share. Rex, you were not just a boss, you were a mentor, a guide and a friend. Your legacy lives on in the success of the PRMF project and the lessons you implemented, and in the hearts of all those who were fortunate enough to know you. Today, as we say our goodbyes, let us remember Rex for the inspiration, the wisdom and laughter he brought into our lives. May he rest in peace, knowing that his impact will endure in the stories we share and the roads we continue to travel. Now I'd like to ask Bill to come forward again, please, to read messages from different families.
I've got some messages from family. It's a tough gig up here, so bear with me. From Rex's nephew, Dennis, in the Philippines. I couldn't believe what I was hearing as my mother told me Rex had passed away. It was surreal. I've never seen him physically weak or sick, which made it more impossible in my mind. My thoughts then shifted to my aunt, how she was doing and if someone was there for her. As I came to accept Rex was gone, a part of me wanted to turn back time. I also wanted to visit them again. I imagined having lunch or dinner one last time. I wanted to show him how I had transformed our garden from a jungle to a cosy and serene backyard. When I was there, I helped Rex with maintaining his house, and it would have been great to get his reaction to my little project. From trimming trees, mulching branches, getting stung by nasty plants, and touring rivers that had crocodiles in them, it was an unforgettable and adventurous vacation. I also wanted to share with him how drinking scotch with him helped me out at a corporate dinner that I had a few years back. As I sat quietly at a large round table together with several other executives, the guest speaker suddenly pointed at me and shouted, "Who taught you that?" He was referring to how I was drinking my black label, double and neat. Some of my colleagues were mixing it with Coke and some had juice or cola as a chaser. The whole table turned and were very silent as they leaned forward to hear my response. I simply said, "This is how you're supposed to drink it." Rex had said, "Don't drink it, just dab your lips a bit and relish the flavour and the scent." I wanted to tell him that story over dinner, to hear his witty response and his heartfelt laughter. A final exchange of ideas on cars, politics, social issues and lawn maintenance. Rest in peace, Rex. I will miss our conversations. And the next one is from Rex's niece, and part of it is a poem by Mary Elizabeth Fry. "Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry, I am not there. I did not die. You will live on, Rex, in every clever, dry humour joke that I hear, in every new country and city that I get to explore. You'll be remembered every time we eat kalios and curry curry with bagoong. Every time we look at a Rolex watch or see an F1 race. Every time we eat at Antonio's or we rewatch Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Every time we witness Tita Tony's absolute joie de vivre, you will be remembered. Rest in peace, Rex. Don't worry about Tita Tony. We will all take care of her and always join in honouring her memory. And from Rex's brother Tony. Tony is with his family in Prague and is unable to be here. I've known his brother, Warren is unable to be here. I've known Warren I've known him since he was a gleam in his father's eye, so it's been a fair while. He has asked me to read this for him. Thank you, Tony, for being part of the family over 4 decades. It has been a pleasure. And also thank you for organising all under this most difficult of situations. I wish you strength and give you our love. We are with you in spirit. I would also like to thank Rex's lifelong friend, Bill, for reading this on my behalf. I am not capable of doing it under the circumstances. Rex visited me in Airlie Beach, Geneva and Prague. As we spent more time together, it became apparent we thought similarly about a great many things, particularly cars. He discovered V8 Audis in later life, an interest that we both shared, but his real obsession was the ultimate R8, a 1964 Renault R8 Gordini 1135. I guess Rex owned this car for nearly 40 years. It had love lavished on its potent mechanicals by one of the original Renault design engineers and rally drivers. I drove it once, but it left a lasting impression. Rex was completing a full restoration on this until the very end. Rex studied a lot. His knowledge on just about any subject was outstanding. He was a pacifist who objected to the war in Vietnam, which led him to Papua New Guinea, where he became a volunteer for the Salvation Army. It was a profound decision for a 20-year-old. It also had the product of shaping his future. His first degree in education was at the University of Papua New Guinea, and eventually, after 16 years of study, hard work and perseverance, this led to a PhD. If you ever read his CV online, better allow plenty of hours to take it all in. It is truly impressive. Tony and Rex recently came to stay 5 weeks with us in Prague. I would have been happy for them to stay permanently. We drove one of my Audis 1,000 k's down to Geneva in Switzerland via the Autobahns and demonstrated how you could travel in a relaxed fashion at 220 kilometres an hour. They took the train from Geneva to Switzerland into France, and then we drove to see the great classic car connection in Mulhouse in France and eventually back to Prague. This will be etched permanently in my memory. I'm very thankful we had the opportunity to spend time together again. There is much I could write about Rex's life. I think, though, you get the idea that was a life well lived. the world was a better place with him in it. I miss my brother, his insight, intelligence, humour, kindness and more. I realise now even more acutely how big a part of me that he was. Despite distance, we communicated most days and spoke regularly. He was always there and now he isn't, and I don't like that. May you rest comfortably and peacefully, dear brother. You are very loved.
Now, is there anybody else here that would like to come forward and say a few words? Okay. Bill, I'd like you to come forward again, please.
A little bit of explanation about his names. Some people knew him as Dr. Kinder, others, and most of you knew him as Rex. He had a few different names at school. One of our friends called him Tyro. This was based on Tyrannosaurus Rex. Didn't catch on, but Kinder liked it. He liked it so much, he decided he would use it for his number plates. 4 other stupid kids at school decided that they wanted to be able to communicate without other people knowing what they were saying. So it was decided we'd learn to speak backwards. It was a tough gig, but in keeping with that, we decided that names had to be backwards as well. So I became Malu Nodge Denalrethus. Rex became Exer Nodrod Rednick, a name that he loved. And he would use that to write his books and as his email address. I called him Kinder, simply Kinder. When he was a child, we both lived in Castlereagh Street in Penrith. He lived on the north side, I lived on the south side. In between us was a mixed business grocery store run by Cyril and Kate Bellingham. This was about 1950. So in those days, no one had, well, very few people had fridges, and it was common to go to the shop almost daily to get your fresh food. It was also a safe time when little kids could ride bikes and pedal cars and get to the shop, do the shopping with a note, come back home. I had a metal pedal car with a tray, and I used to make the trip up to Bellingham's with a note and get the groceries. Cyril would put them in the tray and I would ride it home. One day I got to Bellingham's shop and there was a kid I'd never seen before. He was a bit chubby, had something wrong with his eyes, kept trying to look sideways at things, and he was on his bike with his groceries in his tray. Didn't know him, as I said, so being the polite, well-mannered kid that I was, I thought it was time for an introduction. So I ran into him with my car. The reaction I got was unusual. He got off his bike, stood there, folded his arms and stared at me. Never said a word, didn't move. So I thought, okay, this kid is definitely different. I went into the shop. The second time we ran into each other, we did, literally. I ran into his bike again. I got the same reaction. Stood there, folded his arms and stared at me. And he stared at me for a long time. So I thought, this kid's not only different, but he's determined. Third time, I was already in Cyril Bellingham's shop, getting the groceries. In came this kid, stood inside the door, folded his arms and stared at me. And I thought, this kid is way out there. He's definitely different. And not only has he taken the initiative, he's hijacked my agenda. So I thought, I'll introduce myself, this time without the car. So I did. And it was the start of 73 years of friendship. Now, many of you are familiar with Kinder's achievements, particularly academic and commercial, and Dave's mentioned some of those. I want to tell you about some of the achievements that he made that he thought were funny, and they were before he got into all his study. There was a party at Kinder's place one night, I think it was Cracker Night. A group of male and female teenagers, as you do, got together, and someone came up with the bright idea that we should try and have a competition to see who could kiss the longest, which couple could kiss the longest. Now, if you think this is just so boys could kiss as many girls as possible, you are correct. That's what we wanted to do. So it proceeded. Just about all the combinations had been tried, and it looked like the record was going to be something just under 2 minutes. Kinder looked across at me, he had a weird grin on his face, and he raised his eyebrows. I looked back, rolled my eyes, and shook my head. Okay. He did it again, and this time the eyebrows, a bit like Groucho Marx, they went up and down about 50 times. So about 4.5 minutes later, Kinder had the record for the longest kiss. Unfortunately, so did I. He had a fascination for flatulence, those who knew him well. He was at one stage researching a book to write a reference book on farts. He had excellent credentials for writing this book because at school he held the record for the longest fart, the loudest fart, the most tuneful fart, the wettest fart, and God help us, the smelliest fart. He had an unofficial record for asphyxiating the most classmates at one sitting. It was unofficial because nobody in the room was capable of doing a count. In a more serious note, he held most of the school's swimming records. As Dave said, he was a pretty good swimmer. He was better than that. He was Olympic class, and I mean that. In club meets, he several times beat Michael Wendon over a 100-metre freestyle sprint. And if you don't know who Michael Wendon is, he won the gold medal in the 100-metre sprint at the 1968 Olympics and broke the world record at the same time. Rex was involved in a science accident, a bit like Spider-Man, I guess, but it unfortunately impacted on his lungs and he never became quite the swimmer that he was, although he was still a bloody good swimmer. In his early teens, he was a very good swimmer. And in those early teens, when we were 13, we had to go for our surf silver for the Royal Life Saving Society. We'd done all the rest. We'd done the research and rescue and resuscitation. We'd done the bronzes. The only thing we had to complete was a silver swim. And this was to be done at Avoca Beach. It was a school holidays. And we turned up to do this swim. There were about 9 other kids to do the swim, or young blokes to do the swim. We didn't know them. And when we got to the beach, the wind was blowing pretty hard. The swell was at about 3 metres. The sets were coming in pretty close together. And there was a bloody big dumping shore break. And we looked around, and in those days, of course, there were no rubber duckies and there were no jet skis. So the only thing that saved you if you got into trouble was the surf boat, which was supposed to be out 200 metres so that it'd pick you up if you got into bother. The surf boat was high and dry on the sand behind us. So the conditions weren't looking too good. Terry Hunter, who was the instructor examiner, came over to the group and he said, "Boys, the Cairns are 200 metres out. You got 12 minutes to get out to the Cairns and come back." Well, from the beach, we couldn't see the Cairns. So I got on Kinder's shoulders and the conversation went something like this. Kinder said, "Can you see them?" I said, "Yes." "Can we make it?" "Yes, if we go together, but that means we'll have to go at my pace." And Kinder thought about that for a minute and he said, "We probably won't make the 12 minutes. And I said, "No, probably not." "It looks dangerous." I said, "Yes, it does." "Will I have to save you?" I said, "I'll let you know." 2 people got in the water that day. No prizes for Gessie. We made the swim out. Don't know how long it took. Felt like a week. Probably more than the 12 minutes. When we got out there, I held on to the buoy for about 2 minutes while I recovered, and Kinder trod water next to me. We were well outside our time by this, and there was no quick way back to the beach. There was no easy surf into the beach. We finally got close to the shore break. We got pounded into the sand a couple of times and then waded our way out. As we were coming out, I made the John Cleese style observation of, "We've made it to the beach." Kinder added one word: "Alive." Terry Hunter came over and looked down at us, made a very unnecessary look at his stopwatch and said, "Close enough." This story was a very good example of who we were and who we would be. So who was this bloke that I went into the water with? He was someone who liked an adventure. He was someone you could trust with your life. Someone who asked for your input and gave you valuable feedback. Someone who would help you analyse situations and help you arrive at a decision. And then he'd help you turn that decision into action. And then when you had the action, he would back you up 100%. Someone whose dry wit and sense of humour would make you chuckle even when things were tough. Someone who valued your friendship more than the end result. Not only that, he would continue to do all that for a lifetime. He is greatly missed.
Thank you, Bill. May we now take a moment to reflect and remember as a family share with you their life and happy times with Rex.
Round like a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning on a never spinning reel, like a snowball down a mountain or a carnival balloon, like a carousel that's turning, running rings around the moon, like a clock whose hands are sweeping past the minutes of its face, and the world is like an apple whirling silently in space, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind, like a tunnel that you follow to a tunnel of its own, down a hollow to a cavern where the sun has never shone, like a door that keeps revolving in a half-forgotten dream, or the ripples from a pebble someone tosses in a stream, like a clock whose hands are sweeping past the minutes of its face, and the world is like an apple whirling silently in space, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind. Keys that jingle in your pocket, words that jangle in your head. Why did summer go so quickly? Was it something that you said? Lovers walk along a shore and leave their footprints in the sand. Is the sound of distant drumming just the fingers of your hand? Pictures hanging in a hallway on the fragment of a song. Half-remembered names and faces, but to whom do they belong? When you knew that it was over, you were suddenly aware that the autumn leaves were turning to the colour of her hair. A circle in a spiral, a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning on an ever-spinning reel, as the images unwind, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind.
Some great photos there, and they're great memories. I'd like to read you this poem. It's called Remember. Remember me when I am gone away, gone far away in the silent land, when you can no more hold me by the hand, nor I have half turned to go yet turning stay. Remember me when no more day by day you tell me of our future that you planned. Only remember me, you understand. It will be late to counsel and to pray. Yet if you should forget me for a while, and afterwards remember, do not grieve. For if the darkness and corruption leave a vestige of the thoughts that once I had, better by far you should forget and smile, than that you should remember and be sad. Ladies and gentlemen, for those who would like to pay their last respects, there will be flower petals to put on the coffin if you wish to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, as we're coming to the conclusion of our service today, once again I'd like to thank you for being here and showing your support for Tony. Tony would like to inform those who were to be joining her tomorrow for tea and coffee and refreshments. It has to be postponed for a week, so I should imagine those that could give her a call and find out the details. It is now time to say goodbye to Rex. For those who are able, may we please be standing. Rex Gordon Kinder, your life we honour. Your departure we accept, your memory we cherish. And although there is grief today, as we say goodbye, there is gratitude for your life. We are truly grateful for the privilege of having shared life with you. But rest now, at the end of your days, rest in the hearts and the minds of all those who love you. And so, with love, we shall leave you in peace, and with respect, we bid you a fond farewell. We now commit to your body to be cremated. We give thanks for your life. We remember with gratitude your deep love for your wife Tony, your sense of fun and your generous heart. And may any regrets we feel today be turned into gratitude for the time we have spent with Rex. And may the chill of darkness of death give way to the warmth and the sunshine of his memory that we will cherish forever. Rex, may you forever rest in peace. To you all, my deepest sympathies are with you in this time of grief. I hope that reflecting on the wonderful memories that you have will help you through this time of sadness. May you go forward today with a small flickering of light in your soul. May the memories of your loved one begin to bring comfort rather than pain. May the words, touch and presence of others bring solace. And may you be blessed in your coming in and going out, grateful for a life lived and a legacy left behind. We now leave the memory of our beloved Rex in peace. With enduring love and respect, we bid him farewell. And let us promise him to have a devotion to things worthwhile and fill our own lives with words and actions of real and meaningful worth. I'd like to conclude our service with this quote by Leo Buscaglia. Death is a challenge. It tells us not to waste time. It tells us to tell each other right now that we love each other. And I think that's just a beautiful quote. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes our service. May you find strength and support in your love for one another, and may you find peace in your hearts. Thank you. May you all be sitting while we play our last song.